What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy, JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew, Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, and Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench all this time. Subscribe to the channel. Help make this show the best that it can be as we are about to hit the month of August 2025. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Kids be returning back to school soon, so shout out to all the kids out there. But I never really talked about this before in terms of my personal relationship being invested in the situation involving the original young core of the NBA. And I keep emphasizing this point because it was painfully obvious when they brought the Hurricane to the franchise that they was going to be expounded. They was going to be casted out. They was going to be shipped away because of what I saw in years prior with teams that he signed with or played on, and the moves that they made by taking young drafted talent and flipping it around and bringing superstars. So I already knew what time it was. I already knew what time of the day it was. So, and I don't pretend to be the most knowledgeable fan. I don't pretend to be the most long tenured fan of this storied franchise, the purple and gold, the Los Angeles Lakers. I will never do that. I will never try to sway anyone to think otherwise. That's not what I'm about. That's not what this channel is about. But as a fan, you know how we all like to pretend to be GMs from time to time. You know what I'm saying? That's just fun nature, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think of myself as a GM because there's only 30 people that have their job in the NBA. And I know it can be challenging. You know what I'm saying? When you step into their shoes, especially with what I've seen take place over these past 7 years and what Rob Pelinka's had to do year in and year out. And when I mean year in and year out, I mean year in and year out on a, really it's getting to the point where it's really darn near a month-to-month basis. And you can't grow a team like that. You can't do that. You can't do that. It don't matter how successful your franchise has been throughout its history. You can't gut out all your young talent like that and expect to succeed without being dealt with constant flux and turbulence and chaos. But in this rare occasion, if I was the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers, going into that offseason after the 2017-2018 campaign, what I saw as a fan resonated throughout the course of that entire season. Now remember, let's really pull back the layers to understand what was the landscape that season. Okay, you got a young, core-laden squad with no veteran presence like Chris Paul was to Oklahoma City that one year, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did an interview that they showed during this past season's playoffs, where he said playing with Chris Paul that one year, it really got him to understand how to elevate his game, which is really should be the ideal situation in terms, you know, like a veteran player like Chris Paul, as he started to reach the back end of his prime and whatnot, now he can still be an effective player. He can still be a leader, but he's more of a mentor to the young talent coming in. You see what I'm saying? That's really an ideal situation. Well, as I always allude to, our young core, the original young core, they didn't have that. Now remember, Kobe Bryant, and this is not about, this has nothing to do with trying to, you know, Kobe, that guy right there, man, getting to watch him play all them years, man, from high school. And, you know, first time I saw him play in 1995, all the way up to his retirement, 2016, it was really a privilege, man. And I mean, God dang it, man. What I'm saying is he had retired, right? And he wasn't really His post-basketball career was more focused on other pursuits. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't really centered around basketball per se, not until he opened up this Mamba Sports Academy. What I'm saying is, as far as the Lakers, I mean, he wasn't really involved in that capacity. So the young core was thrown to the wolves. There was no veteran present on the team, right? So in all actuality, man, they had to compete as grown men versus the 19-year-olds that they were. But somehow they was able to do it, and they finished with a record of 35-47, playing in the Eastern Conference. Now remember, Julius Randle, about the first third of that season, at least the first quarter of that season, he was coming off the bench. And then when they put him in the starting lineup, that's when they really began to take off. I mean, they struggled in the beginning, but they weren't getting blown out. They weren't getting like just dusted. You know what I'm saying? But when Julius Randle got the starters minutes, he broke through as a player. He was the anchor. He was the leader of the team, the emotional anchor of the team. He was all that good stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, you had the Golden State Warriors, prime Golden State, with prime KD, the defending champion. You had the Houston Rockets, James Harden, who, earned his first, was only turned to be league MVP award. Chris Paul was traded to Houston that year. James Harden won his MVP. They won 65 games. They had the best record in the NBA. You still had the San Antonio Spurs with Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge. You had the Clippers, matter of fact, the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell playing his second season, along with Rudy Gobert, Defense Player of the Year, players of that caliber. You had the Denver Nuggets, who established themselves as a young playoff team. Their conference was brutal, man. Then you had New Orleans with Anthony Davis, right? Leading this team to the playoffs. Contrary to what the nays and the says want to convince otherwise. So they had to, then you had Portland, prime Dame Dollar, Damian Lillard, and CJ McCollum. They was a playoff team. Okay, so what I saw was a group of young men who competed their tails off and finished with a point differential of negative. They finished the season with a point differential of negative 1.5. Like, when you really understand the grasp of that, or grasp the understanding of that accomplishment for a young court-laden team, where your cornerstone players are really one and dones. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Second fastest paced team led by rookie point guard. The second best rebounding team by percentage in the NBA. You had one of the top scoring second units in basketball, averaging over, I think, about 45 points, somewhere around there. We'll say about 42 to 45 points once they really got going. You know what I'm saying? You had all these high metrics, and the games on average came down to last 5 minutes, where the more experienced team will pull away. But after playing these young core Lakers, the opponent would say, man, this team got a lot of talent, man. You got KD saying, well, heck, this young man Brandon Ingram remind me of myself when I started out. That's what he said about B.I. Like I said, even though Lonzo Ball had that quirky shot, you know what I'm saying? He still averaged about 10.5 points a game, over 7 rebounds, over 7 assists. And the thing that impressed me most about Lonzo Ball, his court vision, getting the ball where it needs to go. He knew how to complete the post-entry pass, and his assist-to-turnover ratio was exceptional for a rookie point guard. Those are the things. I wasn't concerned about the hype of it all, about, well, he's going to break all these team records and he's better than this guy, he's better than this guy. I was looking at it strictly on what we drafted and what their strengths were and what they could contribute in elevating this franchise back to prominence in due time, according to their own growth and development. That's what I was looking at, man. And I studied this young core. It was almost, I was taking mental notes in my mind. It was like an outline. Every game, man, I would point out, I was like, man, okay, based on what he's doing now, I can see him progressing to this point by the end of the season. And it was scary as they was doing it. And I never was able to project like that about a whole team, maybe a player, like what we saw in Kobe Bryant coming into the league. I'm talking about a whole squad that just starting out. That this is how invested I was into this crew. And you see, the reason I was so invested because they was giving me 150% effort as a fan of this team. And no matter what nobody say, to this day, even right now, 2025, even after having Luka on this team now, the Hurricane on the team for 7 years, causing havoc, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, all these savvy veterans, man, all these big names. I never heard one Laker fan say that their young core sold us short when it came to effort. And when you have a team like that, you cannot just cast that aside. So if I was GM, this is what I would have did. You see this roster right here. Let me pull out the names here. I'm gonna read out the names. Wait a minute, give me 1 second. Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Ivica Zubac. Well, Luke Walton was the head coach. And at the time when he was hired, everybody was saying, the people covering the team, critics around the league said that was a perfect hire for the Lakers because, number one, he was drafted as a Laker. He was part of a back-to-back championship team with Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, Derek Fisher, Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum. You know what I'm saying? Trevor Ariza, Ron Artest. And they said, Phil Jackson once said that Luke Walton, outside of Kobe Bryant, Luke Walton had the best understanding of the triangle offense more than anybody else on that team, outside of Kobe Bean Bryant. Luke Walton. He has an acute understanding of how to establish a motion type offense. So when he served as assistant coach for Golden State that had to be about 3 years. I think he was hired in 2014, and then he was their assistant coach when they won their first title of the Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson era in 2015. He was their assistant coach. And then when Steve Kerr was dealing with that back injury, he was the interim coach, and they got out to that fast record. They started the season off like, wasn't it something like 22-0? Well, he was a large reason for that. See what I'm saying? So when they hired him, man, he understood Golden State's offense inside out. And he implemented a variation of Golden State offense for their young core to function under. That's why when they played Golden State, a lot of times, man, they would play them tit for tat. They would match them bucket for bucket. And I remember Kevin Durant's first regular season game, his debut game with Golden State. The Lakers blew them out at home. They beat them by during their 20 points. Now we know Golden State was the defending champions, and if it came down to it, they would beat the young core. But I'm just saying, on that given night, you know what I'm saying? Like, you trying to, study each other's tendencies and whatnot. For that one night, man, you saw the promise that their young core had. So he was the perfect coach. And through his guidance, he helped that young core achieve, for the majority of that season, a top 10 ranked defense. When was the last time you could say that about the Lakers outside of that bubble season when they threw all the chips in? Their defense has been, for the most part, lackluster since. Maybe that season after the bubble, you know what I'm saying? Maybe. But after that, man, that was it. And we saw that in the playoffs this year. They had no defense, especially after they traded Anthony Davis away. But team defense, I'm talking about from the perimeter, from the guard position, the wing, and in your front court, we had a more balanced defensive unit than even the bubble year. When you study the metric. So what I'm saying is, if I'd have been GM, knowing all that, this is what I would have did. Let me name the names here. Ivica Zubac, Brook Lopez, Thomas Bryant, Larry Nance Jr., Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Clarkson, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Josh Hart. Now the other players like Randy Brewer, he's what you call a bridge player. He wasn't going to be part of the foundation of the future. Then of course everybody know about Luol Deng. Now in his prime, Luol Deng was a hell of a player, man. He was a hell of a 3-and-D wing, especially for his defense. He can give you about 17 a game. Andrew Bogut, okay, we know about he was on the downside of his career, but he was there kind of as a bridge player, kind of as a mentor. You know what I'm saying? So in theory, what the Lakers was doing then, man, was actually a beautiful strategy. You had whatever so-called veterans you had on the team, you really had them as mentors, not even anchors, but mentors. You know what I'm saying? Really the mentor, the Zubats and the Thomas Bryants, people like that. Okay. Okay, and then what I would have did going into that offseason of 2018, based on what I saw throughout the course of that season, I'm not making one trade. I'm not trading anybody away. Why would you need to trade them when most of them were at the most, on average, 2-year players? By the time that season ended, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Thomas Bryant, Kyle Kuzma had all completed their rookie years. That's 4 players right there. Brandon Ingram, Zubats had completed their second year. So 6 players with less than 3 years experience. Larry Nance Jr., he was brought in 2015. So basically he was 3 years, but he's still young though. But see, he's your energy guy coming off the bench. And he provided more energy off the bench than anybody that I've seen that they signed when they broke all this up. And then Julius Randle, technically, he completed he was technically a 4-year player coming out, just finishing up his rookie deal. But remember, he missed his whole rookie season after he broke his leg in his rookie debut game. So he really completed 3 years. So you got all this right here, man. Did I mention Thomas Bryant? So Thomas Bryant. Yeah, Jordan Clarkson was drafted the same year as Julius Randle. He was a 4-year player. They had just signed an extension for him. They had just signed to an extension the year before. So really, when you look at it, then you had a young KCP. And I always like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope game. He was a steady player, man. He didn't outshoot. He didn't try to outshoot nobody. He played within the offense. He played good defense. And he was somebody, man, you can rely on game in and game out, okay, to fulfill this role on the team. So I'm looking at Zubac, his metric, even after his second year, his metric was 18 and 12 per 36 minutes. So it stands to figure with Brook Lopez being that mentor, he was our starting center. He was giving us 13 a game. Shit, even Brook Lopez, what center? I ain't talking about Anthony Davis being forced to, or being led to play center. I'm talking about at that center position, who has averaged more than 13 points a game since Brook Lopez? Or the metric, who averaged 18 and 12 per 36 minutes post Zubac since they traded him? Not even Dwight Howard did it. Not even JaVale McGee did it. Not even Tyson Chandler did it. Not even Marcus Gasol did it. Not even DeAndre Jordan did it. Not even Christian Woods did it, especially Jackson Hayes. Everybody who they signed to bring in to play that center position, Mo Bamba, Andre Drummond, they did not provide the production that Lopez did at center, and he was able to stretch the floor and shoot the three. The only player that was able to be as productive was one of their own, who they brought back for the 22-23 season, who they wound up trading midway through, and that was Thomas Bryant. One of your own. So I'm looking at it like I got a veteran center at starter who wanted to return back Brook Lopez wanted to re-sign for the league minimum, for the league minimum, to be a mentor to Zubac. That's why Lopez chose the Clippers this offseason to reunite with Zubac. Do you know how much of emotional boost that's gonna be for Zubats. They had a chemistry with each other, man. You see what I'm saying? It's little things like this that builds a long-standing success on your team. Okay, so then you got Thomas Bryant, man. He gonna give you 150% effort every time he's on the court, man. His energy is infectious, man. He gonna give you 150%. And if you notice, in that finals between Indiana and OKC, remember they went up 2-1. On OKC, they was giving Bryant quality minutes. For whatever reason, they took him out the rotation, and OKC regained control of that series. I believe if Bryant would have been given his minutes that he was given throughout the postseason, it's quite possibly Indiana could have pulled that off and beat OKC before Game 7 was staged. That's just me. Based on what had transpired prior to taking him out the rotation midway during that finals. That's just me. So I'm looking at it like, I got all this youth. They give me 150%. Brandon Ingram doubled his scoring output from his rookie year to his sophomore year or his second year in the league, from 8 points to 16 points. So that means he improved. You see how this works? Jordan Clarkson was giving you 15 had 16 points a game. And I always saw Jordan Clarkson as like a six-man version of Kobe Bryant. I'm going to come in, man. I'm going to put so much pressure on you on offense. I'm going to make you have to D me up. I'm going to shoot. Because that's what a six-man's supposed to do. He's supposed to come in and seek instant offense for your team. That's what he was doing, man. And then 3 years later, he gets traded to a good team after being casted away in Cleveland. He gets traded to Utah Jazz, and then he helps them clinch the #1 seed in 2021. So much so, he wins Sixth Man of the Year. That was my projection for him before he was traded. See, all these players met their projections elsewhere, but they would have done so in a greater fashion in a quicker period of time if they had remained on the Lakers without them bringing the Hurricane to the team. And I know it for 150% fact. This is not just me talking. Kyle Kuzma averaged 16.5 points a game as a rookie. 4-year college player coming out of University of Utah. He reminded me of the way he started the season was the same way that in a similar way than Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht came in with all the confidence in the world. And now, because of the shenanigans, having to take a backstage to a circus, he's lost his confidence, man. And now he's seen as trade bait after he was seen as the steal of the draft. It's all-time depreciation of a player after 1 year I've ever seen in my life in the NBA, Dalton Knecht. And that's why I said when I did a video a couple days ago, he needed to get on out of there, man. They probably going to trade him anyway. Get him on out of there. But Kuzma came up in there. He became a go-to guy because he was a seasoned player as a 4-year collegiate athlete being drafted to the NBA. So now I'm looking at it like I said, damn, okay. I see what they doing now. I said, damn, okay. They drafted the one and dones early on, and now they bringing in guys with multi years of college. You see what I'm saying? The strategy, if you really look at what the Lakers was doing, with the Lakers brass, I'm talking about that scouting department, man. I'm telling you, man, they should have been promoted. They should have been promoted. Kuzma wound up being top 5 Rookie of the Year candidate, top 5 ever in Laker history for total points scored in the season by a rookie. Kyle Kuzma is a Laker in history. You see what I'm saying? Okay, Josh Hart. What can we say about Josh Hart? Best pound-for-pound rebounder in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? He coming off a national championship at Villanova. 4-year college player, man. Intangibles. Hart. You know what I'm saying? Hart had heart. He get the rebounds that even the big men don't want to get at times. And he played good defense, man. And he ain't going to sell you short, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at this team, and like I said, I don't really count Randy Brewer per se. He's a bridge player. Luau Deng, I don't count them players, or Andrew Bogut. And then the other guy, I think Tyler Ennis. You know what I'm saying? But even then, man, Tyler Ennis I would say he was effective in the G League. You know what I'm saying? Where we had the greatest summer league team of all time in 2017. Compared to what we see right now, they done fell off immensely in the past 7 years. You see what I'm saying? They got guys that's been on their G League team for the past 5 years. They ain't been called up yet. Whereas Caruso was called up. You see what I'm saying? He was called up. Jay Huff was called up. Matt Ryan was called up. Shit. When they sent Scottie Pippen Jr. down to the G League, he gets cut and waived. He down there in Memphis, man. He dropping 30 points in the playoff game. Well, they ain't got that no more. They ain't got that no more. That's why they finished the summer league with a 1-4 record. So I'm looking at it like, I'm not trading nobody. I'm not looking to sign a free agent. Now, word was that Paul George wanted to come. If I believe he probably would have signed in 2018 as a free agent, but instead he brought the Hurricane to the team, and Paul George said, I'm good on that, and he re-signed with OKC. And then he requested that trade to the Clippers a year after, when Kawhi Leonard became a free agent coming off a championship in Toronto. And tell you the truth, quite possibly, in 2019, if the Hurricane were on the team, Kawhi Leonard probably would have signed and became a Laker. That's what I believe. I believe Kawhi Leonard would became a Laker, even more so than Paul George. Then you got your young core, you got your draft picks, man. You got your whole decade to look forward to. Boom, you ready to rock and roll. But I'm not signing nobody in free agent 2018. I'm going to invest that next season fully in the young core. And it's really going to be year 3. And the reason I say year 3 because Kobe Bryant retired in 2016 after the 2015-2016 season. You see what I'm saying? And then that offseason, that's when they hired Luke Walton as head coach. So the way I look at it is, if you look at Oklahoma City's development, the first 2 years they rebuilt, they was winning like 22, 24 games. Then they took a jump in their 3rd year, and their 4th year, it finished with number 1 seed, lost in the 2nd round. In the 5th year, they won the championship. Perfect execution, because they stuck with the plan. And they adopted our blueprint that we originated starting in Kobe's last year. Telling y'all, it's insanity. But I'm not trading nobody away. I'm gonna put the keys into the hands of that young core. I'm gonna instill all the confidence in the world. And I'm gonna say one day, y'all gonna become a champion. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna look at them as an asset to flip around. I'm gonna look at them as our prime asset to be the building block for another era of Laker greatness. That's what I'm gonna do. Brandon Ingram, I believe, based on what he did his first year in New Orleans. And what's funny is, when he got traded to New Orleans, I said that first year, I said, he gonna drop 24 a game. I could see it in him. And that season, he dropped 24 a game. He dropped 24 a game and became an all-star for the first time. And I believe he will become an all-star again this year. You know what I'm saying? As the primary scorer for Toronto. Because I think the situation in New Orleans, they was always trying to build around Zion Williamson, but they probably should have been trying to build a team around Brandon Ingram. But I understand, because Zion was drafted to be the franchise player. So therefore, especially after they gave Zion that extension, they gonna pick Zion over Brandon Ingram every single time. If it came down to who you gonna trade. So I'm gonna steal all the confidence, because they showing me they're gonna work hard and they're willing to improve. Randall at that point was dropping 20 and 10. And I believe Randall would be more effective as a Laker than as a New York Knick, because he had to change his whole game up in New York. And then, you know, he made second team all NBA, but in the playoffs, when they faced Atlanta Hawks in the first round, all Atlanta had to do was key in on him. It made him look a certain way. And he was never really embraced by New York, which I get. I'm not hating on that at all, because he never should have been let go. He gave us 82 games. He did everything the Lakers asked him to do, and he was shafted in the end. To try to bring in a third superstar after they created cap space to sign the Hurricane by trading Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr. to Cleveland to bring in 2 expiring contracts, and Isaiah Thomas. Not the original Isaiah, not Zeke. Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye. You see what I'm saying? This is why their salary cap situation is so extreme and it's based on fluctuation. It's not like based on your actual value of the players who you bring in and draft. That's why Oklahoma City's finna roll for a long time. They done all the structural development up front. Now all they gotta do really, man, cruise control. Anytime they need to make a move, boom, make a quick phone call, we good to go. Because they gonna always have the leverage. So, Randall, instead of averaging 24 a game, he could just do 20 do his 20 a game and be more prominent on the boards. Now, here comes Zubac developing, right? And this is why Julius Randle shot 56% from the floor his last year with the Lakers, because he was being featured as a post player playing opposite the Zubats and the Brook Lopez on the other side of the block. You see what I'm saying? But in New York, he had to transform his game to acclimate to what New York was trying to do. And this is not to knock New York. I'm just saying that's what led him to change his game up. See? But if you notice, in Minnesota, this past season, he wasn't taking as many threes as he had been taking in New York. You see what I'm saying? And he became more of a post player again. And that's one of the main reasons why they had a successful run and they went to the conference finals. And that's the main reason why they beat the Lakers in the first round. Because he wasn't really shooting all them threes like he had been shooting in New York. He was playing what they call their bully ball. He was posting cats up. See, I'm telling you, man, like if you really study this team, dog, if you look at the record and you say, oh, they didn't do nothing a year, it's going to throw you off. But they improved by 20 games over 2 years in a brutal Western Conference with no other veterans on the team. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you, man. Okay, Kuzma would have carried over to the year 2. He'd have been even more confident. He go from 16 to 5. Who knows? He may average 20 in his second year. Hart would go from averaging 8.5 to averaging double figures. Nance Jr. is more solidified. He's your bona fide energy guy. Lonzo's going to improve too. He's going to improve too. He's going to give you them assists. He's going to give you them rebounds. He's going to give you that court vision. He's going to give you that floor balance. He's going to give you that defense up front on the perimeter that the Lakers are clamoring for right now. And that assist to turnover ratio going to be minute. He ain't going to turn the ball over a lot. So therefore, you giving your opponent less possessions. It's the little intricacies, man. And I go on and on and on, man. And then you still got KCP. Shit. And then in 2019, when you have the deepest free agent pool in the history of the NBA in terms of talent, superstar talent, all-star talent, elite role player talent, shooters, defenders, shot blockers. You know what I'm saying? Bolstering the second unit even more. Telling you they had your pick of the litter. Then your salary cap is appropriated properly to where you only need one superstar in free agency. Then you can pay your own players when it's time when it's time to re-up on their contract, and you got the bird rights where you could pay them, you know, according to their value, and it won't go against your cap. I'm telling you, man, this is what I would have did. And you got your draft picks to where down the line, going to the new decade, at that point, yes, a trade is always there when it's appropriate, when it's time. You got your assets, you got the leverage, you got the momentum to continue to build on what you structurally have already formulated with the original young core evolving to become your foundation. And the type of player that you bring in is going to acclimate to your system, dog. Telling you, dog, that's what I would have did if I was the GM. I don't think it's based on logic. It's not saying any of these guys going to be the GOAT or the greatest ever they position, but in terms of the Los Angeles Lakers, when a player like Kobe Bryant retire, you got to start over. There's no other option. A player like that represents your franchise for 20 years, you got to start over, man. To where you can't rely on free agency to build your team up. Free agency is supposed to, you know, be like the final piece of a puzzle, or to fill a certain void that you need to improve on the team. But when you sacrifice your whole squad, when you sacrifice your future the way the Lakers did, man, they have to convince the fans that they in the mix. So they create a web of smoke and mirrors, man, and there's nothing there, because you always have to rely on outside players to make you feel that you are in the mix. And you begin to lose your way as a franchise. So that's just my personal approach to what I would have done if I was GM, based on the situation leading into that offseason. There's nowhere in the world I'm bringing the Hurricanes to this team, particularly at this stage of where the franchise was at. And at the stage of his career where he stopped playing defense a long time ago. That's why they always underperformed during the second stint in Cleveland. Do you realize, with all the talent that they had, the Kevin Loves, the Kyrie Irvings, the J.R. Smith, the Iman Shumperts, then you bringing in Kyle Korver and all them cats, dog. Even a Tristan Thompson gave you hustle on the boards. He could score, in situations. Do you realize during that second stint in Cleveland, their team never won 60 games, and they playing in the Eastern Conference that grew even more lackluster and competitive than the 4 years down there in Miami? Because once Derrick Rose, once he injured his ACL, he had a free ride to get to the finals. They never won 60 games. In them 4 years, with all that talent that Cleveland had, they never won 60 games during the regular season. And they brought that type of mentality to this franchise. That's why they're underperforming now. His system is not sustainable. It's not. We done seen the proof of it. So that was the moment of truth, off season right there, the summer 2018. If they had stayed the course, this franchise be riding high. I know it, man. And they would not have needed to sell the team. See, a devaluation process took place the moment that they signed that dude, which led them 7 years later, because they're not getting return. It's not even an investment, because you mortgage the future away. It was a shortcut venture that was proposed to them that led them to believe they was going to rack off 3 straight championships, and all they got is a bubble. That's it. Period. End of discussion. The facts show it. The history proves it. And now it got so real that one of their own came up in crypto this postseason, and in the fourth quarters, he outplayed the Hurricane, and Julius Randle was the main reason why Minnesota beat the Lakers in 5 games. Anthony Edwards had that one big game. I think that was game 3 when he dropped like 40. But outside that, when he came in the fourth quarters, and Randle D'd up LBJ, the Hurricane, and Luka in the fourth quarter, I sat there and watched it. You see, I believe in my own players as a fan of this franchise. Why wouldn't I? If they improving, see, and the thing about Randle is, when he was on the team and the leader of the team, he didn't back down to nobody, man. You remember that? Remember that tussle when he got into it with Boogie Cousins? When Boogie was up there in Sacramento, when Boogie was the best center in the league, and the Lakers had beat Sacramento right before the game ended. Boogie walked over to the Lakers bench, and him and Randle was kind of, they was jawing at each other. It was funny, though. It was funny. They weren't finna throw blows, but it's more like, they both went to Kentucky, bragging rights. And then Brandon Ingram, a young Brandon Ingram, poked his head out, looking to see what's going on and shit. Man, I fell in love with that team, man. I'm telling you. Because it felt something special, dog. And Randle didn't back down to Kevin Garnett. And when Kobe said Julius Randle, he acted like a grown-ass man. He stood up to Tyson Chandler when Tyson Chandler was down there in Phoenix. He stood up to Tyson Chandler. He stood up to all the big dudes, man. Then nobody stepped up on Randle, dog. Nobody stepped up on Randle. He was only 20 years old, and you let that go? I'm telling you, man, this team would have been serious, dog. And see, when you know your players, you know your players. That's The one thing that Brandon Ingram was missing is that mentorship from a leader as a teammate. That's what Ingram, like if Ingram had a chance to work out with Kobe Bryant, if he ever had a chance to work with Kobe Bryant, Brandon Ingram possibly could be at least the best small forward in NBA. He's been the best mid-range shooter at his position, but I'm talking about just in totality, that Mamba mentality, if he was introduced to that over the course of an offseason and trained under that, when nobody want to deal with him, dog. I'm telling you, dog. Because that first playoff he had versus Phoenix, I think he had a 38-point game, triple-double against them. I think that was game 2. He was beasting on them cats, dog. He got into his rhythm. You see what I'm saying? Couldn't nobody guard him. Mikal Bridges couldn't guard him. Cameron Johnson couldn't guard him. Devin Booker couldn't guard him. He was killing them. But Zion Williamson was hurt. Otherwise, maybe they beat Phoenix. But B.I. dropped he dropped 30 points. I remember going to that. I remember a Laker fan who was kind of invested in the current situation. We was talking about Brandon Ingram. And he say, well, since you like Brandon Ingram so much, what you think he gonna average in this playoff series? I said, well, based on what he did the second half of the season, I expect him to drop 27, 6 and 6, 27, 7 and 7. That's exactly what that man averaged in that series. That first game, he had like 18. You could tell he was nervous. That was his first playoff game. Man, once he got that out of his system, man, he buckled down. He dropped four straight 30-point games, man. They couldn't do nothing with that dude, man. Tell you. And he was giving you the assist, and he was giving you that mid-range jumper, and he was hitting them free throws, dog. He was hitting. And this one last thing, and I'm going to shut this down. Brandon Ingram has the all-time NBA record for free throw improvement from one season to the next. His last year with the Lakers, he was shooting like 67%. His free throw shooting percentage jumped by 21% from 67 to 88. That's the biggest jump in free throw shooting proficiency from one season to the next or in consecutive seasons in the history of the NBA. But they gonna tell me, man, these dudes didn't work hard, man. But see, that's why I say I followed all of them when they were traded away. Lonzo Ball corrected that quirky shooting form, and he did it within one season. And by the time he got that shot where it was automatic for him, that new shooting form, his three-point shooting went from like, I think he was shooting like maybe 30% from three doing this year with the Lakers, to 29%. It went up all the way up to 40%. In his last 2 months with the Pelicans, before he signed with the Chicago Bulls, he was dropping 20 points, see, the rebounds and assists were always on point. Over 7.5 assists, rebounds, and over 7 assists. He was dropping 20 points a game, and he started hitting 80% for the free throw line. Tell you, man, he just got hurt, because I think he's wearing them shoes, man, them big baller brand shoes that was hurting his knees, dog. If he'd been wearing real, actual gear, or kicks, as they call it, he probably been riding high to this day. And Lonzo Ball was taking on the toughest defensive assignments with a minimum of 500 minutes that season, and it's only his 4th year at his position than any other point guard in the NBA. It was Lonzo Ball. I can go on and on and on, man. This young core was the real deal, dog. And I hate to keep calling them young core because, I mean, shit, Kuzma's 30 now, Randall's 31, B.I., I think he'll be 28 soon, Zubac 28. But to me, man, they just hold a special place in my heart because I'd rather have that than all this nonsense that's going on right now. Where they gotta, oh man, they bring in a guy, the media gas him up, but now it's getting to the point where they're not really gassing him up no more. They really don't know how it's gonna turn out. But when you have your own, you know exactly what you got, man. When you got your own. And I'm not saying you're gonna win a title with all drafted players, that's not what I'm saying. But as your core, out of the 14 draftees, and this not even talking about Morris Wagner and Svi Mykhailiuk, out of them 14 drafted players, at the minimum, 8 should have been left on their team. And our players I think this should have been automatic, of course, Julius Randle, B.I., Lonzo, Zubac, Josh Hart, Jordan Clarkson, Thomas Bryant, Larry Nance Jr., that's 8 right there. And then if you want to stretch it out, you can say Mo Wagner and Zavi McCollum. And I'm sure I'm missing somebody out of that, man. And that talent. And then, like I say, hold on 1 second. Like I say, out of that, at the minimum 8, I would say, me personally, I'm gonna try to keep as many of them as I can, dog. That's just me, dog. And I know at some point down the line, you know, like players like the Randalls and the BIs, your cornerstone, they should represent your franchise for at least 7 years. At least 7 years. You know, like Eddie Jones did, and Nick Van Exel. They played for the franchise about 6-7 years. You know, and to only average 2 years, nah, man, that's insanity, dog. And that's why they're going through the flux right now. You know, but I just want to break that down, people. I know it in my heart. That's the thing about it. I'm not just talking just to be talking. I know what my eyes was telling me. The eye test, dog. But please leave your comments and thoughts. I just want to drop that gold nugget. And until next time, this is your boy JB for BTB Behind the Bench.